In the position on the board in front of you, white has an isolated pawn. An isolated pawn is a pawn that has no neighboring pawns to defend it. It cannot be defended by other pawns. White's pawn on the E file must be defended by other pieces that would rather be doing something else. In this position, although white's D pawn is well guarded by the pieces, there is a weakness directly in front of it, which is the D5 square, which can be occupied by the knight on F6. And since there are no neighboring pawns on white's side of the board on the C and E files, the knight cannot be chased away. Since in this position white has the isolated D pawn, must look for compensation by creating threats. So white's play has to be dynamic. Bishop G5 threatens bishop takes F6 followed by queen takes H7 checkmate. And lastly, in this position, white can play the pawn to D5. It's called a jettison, which means to push it forward or advance the pawn forward. Knight takes D5 is not possible because it's pinned. Queen takes D5 would allow white to deliver checkmate on E7. So the only way to capture the pawn is with C takes D5. And now it is black who is settled with an isolated D pawn. Now let's apply this to a game. This should be your approach from the standard starting position. Here is International Chess Master Rex, and listen carefully as he guides you through the game.
After black plays the move D takes on C4, we arrive at a queen's gambit except. Black's pawn on A6 indicates that he wants to advance on the queen's side, but A4 stops that advance. And now, after capturing on D4, the recapture of the E pawn leaves white with an isolated D pawn. So white's plan in this position is active piece play. Now on the subject of hanging pawns. Hanging pawns are two pawns on adjacent files that cannot be supported by other pawns, similar to the isolated pawn. Hanging pawns are very strong, which means the black will have to come up with a way to stop white's pawns from advancing too far. And this line's continuation will illustrate my point. In the current position, black's typical plan is to play the knight to D5 and capture the knight on C3. And after white recaptures, the pawn will be a backward pawn. As compensation, white gets to apply pressure along the A2 to G8 diagonal, while advancing the F pawn to F5, which will in turn put pressure on black's E6 pawn.
Black's counter plan. Black applies pressure along the C and D files. However, white was successful in advancing the backward pawn forward, and white's got the much better game. That is all I have. Stay tuned. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe.